Two guys in their early 50s with one dream: to achieve middle-aged sporting glory. This is the Missing Links Golf Show. Andy Walker, I'm feeling inspired today after listening to that intro.
It's always good to feel inspired. So was it the Alex Grohl just
that
rock
helped.
and roll? Is that what it was, or was it the sound of your own voice saying two guys either side? Or it's not either side of 50. It's
in their early 50s. No, it was.
Or was
the
it the fact that you're in? Was the fact that you're in your early 50s?
No, that wasn't the inspiring part. Definitely not. It was the search for middle-aged sporting glory.
Oh, nice.
How good is that?
Yeah.
How good is that?
So how close do you think? Like we're? Do you reckon we're getting closer, or like? I mean, we're now what? This is episode 80, I think. So
yeah, wow, that's a milestone.
After 79 episodes, do you feel as though we are, or we're going backwards?
Honest answer: we're no closer.
We're just treading water.
We're on the treadmill. Oh dear. But anyway, I'll tell you who's not on the treadmill and who is a lot closer to sporting glory, not just middle-aged sporting glory, but sporting glory in general, and that is the man himself, Scotty Scheffler.
Do you think he's closer to it, or do you reckon he's sort of actually got there and not necessarily just with the PGA victory?
Well, here's the thing. Now that he has achieved that victory, and there was some stats put out about how many wins he's had recently in his top 10 and top 5 finishes in majors. Yep. And, comparisons were made to the greats of the game, such as Nicklaus and others. Yep. I feel like we might be witnessing the run of one of the game's greatest ever players at the moment. What do you think?
Yeah, look, I think he will go down as one of the greats. Whether he can sustain and maintain the level that he's on, certainly his trajectory at the moment is he's going to give double figures a run.
You think?
And there's only 3 guys that have ever achieved that. Obviously, being Jack, Tiger, and Walter Hagen, are the 3 guys with 10 or more. But again, sustaining that is, and doing, say, what Jack did or what Tiger did. I'm not overly familiar with what Walter Hagen did, but obviously he had to, sustain his level of golf for a very long time, given he won 10. But I certainly witnessed a lot of what Jack did and a lot of what Tiger did, and their level of golf over an extended period of time was just, it was on another level. And yes, he's been good, or he's been great for the last few years, but is he going to maintain that for another decade? And that's effectively what he's got to do, I think, to say that he's one of the greats of the game. So he's still got work to do, but his trajectory is on that level.
Yep. I think that's hard to disagree with. So, Pilgrims, you might have guessed by that little conversation that we kicked off with that the purpose of this episode is to have a chat and unpack everything that happened at Quail Hollow in the 2025 PGA Championship Major number 2 for the year. And there was quite a lot. I just want to give you a couple of my initial thoughts, Andy Walker, before we leap into the detail. Okay.
Yep.
So obviously, it's a few days now since the final round was played, and I think at the time my initial response was that it was a little bit of a fizzer, but that was because I only really watched the closing holes live, just due to the time difference. But I went back over the last couple of nights and I've watched the entire final round, and I now disagree with myself. I actually think there was quite a bit of action on the final day.
Oh, look, John Rahm, I thought at one point Rahm was just going to come over the top of Scheffler and get the job done. Yes. It's going to be an interesting conversation because I want to come back to it after your little spiel about the live golf whether playing 54 holes in live golf had any impact on whether Rahm could get it done in majors. So we'll just sort of park that to the
We'll
side
leave
for
that
the
one
moment.
there. I did have some thoughts on that as well. And look, that was one of my points, to be honest. Rahm had it for the taking. And I think, kind of early, halfway, even probably halfway into the second nine, he had all the running, had all the momentum.
Yep.
And Scotty was battling himself. And I think one of the stories of this is Scotty managed his emotions and managed his course management decisions really well throughout that round, because he clearly was not at his best.
No.
He did get a couple of good breaks along the way as well, though, and in particular on two. He got a fantastic bounce off the cart path, so that definitely helped. But I think Rambo probably should have won. Is probably one of the stories that comes out of it.
Yeah, there were a number of putts on the back nine where he probably just didn't quite get the job done, where he probably needed to hold those specific putts that if you're going to win a major championship, and especially if you're going head to head with the best player in the world, you need to hold those putts in order to get over the top of him. So and then obviously the water ball on 17, put paid to any chances he had.
Look, it did, but I actually think it was done the hole before that. Is the reality. The other one, like the other couple of points, is, to be honest, the rest of the field kind of fell away and didn't really pressure. And I think it might have been a different story if there were a few other guys that were putting pressure on as well, rather than just sort of that head-to-head with Scotty and Rambo.
I certainly think DeChambeau, I think he would have walked away from the championship disappointed, because he looked good at certain times throughout the 4 rounds, but he just, in that final round, I mean, he still shot 100, but I feel as though, he just didn't quite, he certainly wasn't at his best like he was in the US Open, and like he was certainly for the first 3 rounds of the Masters, and obviously he then sort of fell away in the last round of the Masters as well. So, but I would have thought DeChambeau may have sort of pressed a little bit more in that final round.
I agree. And then the other one that's probably worth mentioning was Harris English firing a 65 on Sunday to vault himself right all the way up the leaderboard into a tie for third.
Well, that was really interesting because he did nothing. Well, you can't say he did nothing for the first 3 rounds, but he was even par.
He was even,
after the first 3 rounds, and then shot the best round of the day, final round, and has ended up a tie for second. I mean, it's I don't know if he ever contended, if you could say he ever contended, but certainly
I don't think so.
After the final round was just a phenomenal effort. He's just come from nowhere. He's come from the middle of the pack.
Yeah, I don't think he ever contended, because I think, when you watch the coverage, you just see his 65 when that slotted in, and it was hours before the leaders finished. And then it just slowly wandered up the leaderboard as everyone was falling away in the closing hole. So that was interesting. But before we get into the action, I've got a question that I want to ask you, and that is, what do you think of Quail Hollow as a major championship venue?
Yeah, look, I think, and the thing with golf and the thing with majors, I think, is you have to host majors at different types of golf courses. I don't think you can just have the same sort of golf course and go and have the same setup every single time. I mean, I know they do at the Masters, and the Masters is a very special golf tournament. I love the Masters, and it works for the Masters. But the 3 other majors, you need to go and have different conditions, different types of golf courses to test the best players in the world. And that means different types of golfers are going to win. It also means that it gives the best, like Scotty Scheffler, the chance to test his game against the best under different conditions. And that really, I think, tests the mettle of how good you actually are. So, look, Quail Hollow is a Bombers golf course. I mean, that was sort of covered in the lead up to the championship. I mean, was it Jordan Spieth called it Rory McIlroy Country Club? So it's a Bombers golf course, but again, it's just a different type of golf course. It was very different to the course they played the week before on the PGA Tour. So it's just I don't have any problems with it at all.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it as a venue. I think it's a beautiful golf course. I think it's in incredible condition. I do agree it's a bomber's golf course. You've got to be long. It's a big ballpark, and that definitely plays into the hands of the longer hitters, and it probably wipes out half the field before you really start.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I was going to talk about Jordan Spieth a little bit later on, who was going for his career Grand Slam, and a course like Quail Hollow doesn't really suit Jordan Spieth. Now, he obviously struggled and ended up missing the cut. Mind you, I think he shot 3 under in the second in round 2, so he can still play around it, but it's not a golf course that you would say suits his game. So yeah, he was always going to struggle to be able to get the slam done this year.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, and the other part of it as well is that it was really wet in the lead up to the PGA Championship. They got 5 inches, or conversion to millimeters, 130 millimeters or thereabouts of.
Did you just do the
rain.
maths on the fly then, Andy Walker?
No. I actually I had my Google calculator out when I was writing a few notes for today's episode. I'd like to say I'm that good at maths, but no. That's what I prepared earlier. I think is that comment. But the other one was the mud balls, which threw a bit of a curveball into it, which I wouldn't mind knowing your thoughts on mud balls, and because there were a couple of the Scotty Scheffler was one, Xander Schauffele was the other, who weren't particularly happy with the mud balls, certainly after round 1.
Do you want me to offer my thoughts on that now?
Yeah, let's go there now.
Okay, so mud balls are annoying, no question, because they obviously affect the flight of the ball in unpredictable ways. I think Scotty's remark was something along the lines of, we spend our whole life trying to learn how to, move the golf ball in controlled and predictable fashions, and then the mud ball just turns it into a lottery.
Yep.
Look, I get the point. It's annoying. It's a little bit like hitting a great drive down the middle and then finding your ball in a unrepaired divot on the fairway. It's annoying. But we play golf on an imperfect surface, and I think these things are going to happen sometimes. Like you get some bad breaks, you get some bad lies, and you have to deal with it. And for mine, as long as the ball is not plugging and embedding in the surface, the odd mud ball, I think, is just part and parcel with playing golf on turf rather than on synthetic surfaces.
Yeah. And look, I agree with that. It certainly, I always think about, the old Bobby Jones quote when I'm thinking about sort of these sorts of conditions that, and for those who don't know the Bobby Jones quote, it's golf is the closest game to the game we call life. You get bad breaks from good shots. You get good breaks from bad shots, but you have to pick your ball up, clean it, and take a preferred lie.
That's not the quote.
Oh, that's not it?
No.
Oh, no. Did I get that wrong?
Yeah, you did. So, look, I think we're aligned on that. I think I agree with a lot of the things that Scotty says, and I think he's a pretty balanced individual. But to be honest, on this one, it sounded a bit petulant, in reality.
Yeah, look, and in all seriousness, I know, obviously I changed the end of that quote, so but you have to play the ball as it lies. Obviously, is the end of the quote, and I especially in major championships, I completely agree with that. I don't think you should have the benefit of having a preferred lie. Golf is played on an imperfect surface in imperfect conditions.
That's part of it.
Got a wide range of conditions that you've got to play in, and unless there's a thunderstorm, pretty much all the course is unplayable. You've got to play. And that's it. And you've got to deal with the breaks. It's the same with everyone. It's sort of similar to, and it's certainly in the Open Championship, it's extremely prevalent where the morning players may get a huge benefit to the afternoon players, or vice versa. And you can't, and that's just accepted. That's accepted that, you know what, that's the rub of the green. That's just, the luck of the draw, quite literally. And if you can't deal with that in golf, go and play an indoor sport.
100%. And I mean, that was after round one, and that wasn't Scotty's best round of the tournament. Obviously, his best round was on Saturday, but I think if he'd have shot a 65 in those conditions, I don't think he would have been whinging about mud balls. No,
I don't think so either. So yeah, it was probably and you're right. It's probably a little bit of an emotional reaction after day one, but yeah, I think. Yeah, he probably, and I don't know, maybe he's got the same viewpoint now, but I certainly disagree with his viewpoint. And specifically in major championships, I disagree with his viewpoint.
Wholeheartedly. Okay, I'm glad that we've sorted him out on that point. So, shall we get into the tournament? Where do you want to start on this? There's so much to unpack.
What about, let's just go through the rounds and who was at the top of the leaderboard after round one, because certainly after round one, I had high hopes for Cam Davis. I thought Cam Davis, he had a bit of a wobbly finish, but I think that he's a flusher. And his putting has come a long way in recent years, and the way he's now had experience in the President's Cup, so pretty big tournaments. He's won the Australian Open. I felt as though this might be his time to really give a major championship a run. And after round one, he was 5 under. He was a couple of shots behind Jonathan Vegas. Who Jonathan Vegas just seemed to have come from nowhere, but certainly
good player.
I felt as though Cam Davis was in a really good position and felt he was going to sort of have a strong week.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, Cam Davis is a quality golfer. Hits the ball a long way. He's a very tall guy. It seems like he's got a pretty solid mental game as well. Pretty good head on his shoulders. He doesn't seem to get too wound up out on the golf course.
Well, apparently he did a little bit of hypnotherapy.
I did hear that
or so ago.
I did hear that. Yeah.
Which certainly I feel has helped his mental game a little bit, and he just seems to be a much more focused player and more present player, and just doesn't seem to be that phased by too much.
Yeah, and look, had a fantastic round one. Things didn't necessarily pan out for him beyond that, but certainly put himself in a position to have a go. And I think he hasn't been necessarily in that situation in a major championship before. So this experience, I think, can only do good things for him into the future, because the guy's certainly got a lot of game to contest, and on big ballparks, he hits the ball a long way. So definitely be one to watch in the future at potentially at places like Augusta as well.
Yeah, and I agree with that. But I certainly feel I feel as though after round one, and I was, what you said at the start, that you're a little bit sort of ho hum about the PGA Championship after you watched the last few holes. I was sort of like that after round one. It seemed to be the on the leaderboard, it was the who's who of the middle of the pack. And nothing against the guys who are on the leaderboard, because obviously Cam Davis, I rate him, but and he was up there. Jonathan Vegas, he was obviously shot 7 under and was leading, but they're not guys. There's not the Schefflers, there's not the McIlroys, there's not the Rambos or the DeChambos up at the top of the leaderboard. And I looked at the leaderboard and went, wow, that's really unexpected.
Well, the super group never really got going on day one.
No. Well, not just on day one, really.
Yeah, well, that's true. On day two as well. And I mean, I don't know. I think now's probably time to briefly discuss Rory, because obviously there was a lot of talk about Rory after winning the Masters and finally getting the Slam, and obviously playing at Quail Hollow, as you talked about before, at Rory McIlroy Country Club, about the potential for him to come and win 2 in a row. And I think there was one or two highly respected golf commentators talking about the potential for Rory to win all 4 majors this year. I can't remember who was talking about that. That's obviously not going to happen. No. And I don't know, do you think it's a bit of a Masters hangover with Rory?
I was going to say, it felt like he's still at the 19th hole at Augusta National.
Yeah, that's what I thought. There was no fire or, kind of fight or anything in him from the outside looking in. Obviously, that could be a very different story.
But he made a really interesting comment in the lead up to the PGA in that he said that he's done everything that he wants, that he dreamed of doing in golf. He's achieved everything that he's wanted to. He's won the Slam. He's competed at the highest level. He's got to world number 1. He's played in multiple Ryder Cups. He said he's done it all. He's got nothing left to. Well, he didn't say he's got nothing left to achieve, but that was the sort of.
That was the gist.
Of the gist of what he was saying. So
these are dangerous statements.
Yeah, and I mean that. Is he losing his hunger because he's won the Slam, or won achieved, in his words, everything that he set out to achieve? I don't know. I mean, I would love to see Rory, take what he's just achieved and what he's achieved over the last sort of 10, 12, well, throughout his whole career, and get to 7, 8, 9, possibly even push 10 majors. But after those comments, does he have the hunger to do that now? I don't know. That it just concerns me a little bit. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, but it was a really interesting commentary that he made in the lead up to the PGA Championship.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to hear him kind of finish that thought by saying something like, I've proven everything I've needed to prove to myself in the game. I've achieved everything that I set out to achieve, and achieved all of the goals that I had. But now that I've done that, it really frees me up to go and have a red hot crack at everything else, and win an Olympic gold medal and win multiple more majors and do all those sorts of things. Not because I have to, but because I want to. Yeah. And I think that's where he needs to get if he's going to do these things. Or otherwise, he could just say, I'm a Grand Slam winner and I'm going to cruise around and make a few more million and have a victory lap have a victory lap for the rest of my career. Maybe go to live and just cash it right in. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, and that's an interesting comment and an interesting move, because if he did want to do that, that would be the obvious move that he would make, right?
Yeah.
But look, I don't know. It's it'll be interesting to see where Rory goes. Because you think back, and we had a brief conversation about Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods. Could you ever imagine?
Not a chance.
Jack and Tiger saying something like that?
Not a chance.
And even Scotty Scheffler. I mean, we hear a lot about Scotty Scheffler's competitive edge, and that's what drives him. I just can't ever see Scotty Scheffler saying something like that. I think he will always have a fire that burns within him, regardless on how much he wins.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. And I think, look, just going back to Rory's comment about I've achieved everything that I want to. Well, Rory, I think you need to lead the Europeans to a Ryder Cup victory on American soil.
And that's interesting, because that's two big things that I think that you've identified there. A, an Olympic gold medal.
Yeah.
And B, a Ryder Cup victory on US soil. I mean, they've got to be
there.
Yeah, goals that are unachieved that could drive him. But yeah, we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
So Rory, if you're listening,
and we know you are,
you haven't achieved everything. You've achieved a lot, but the job's not yet done. So back on the horse, buddy. Wow. That went in unexpected places.
So round one, done and dusted.
One and done. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, round two, I felt round two was it was a bit more intriguing than what round one was. You started to see a few of the better golfers move up the leaderboard. Sort of Scotty Scheffler, you could probably say, was lurking rather than giving it a full run. DeChambeau as well had a fairly good round, and then you had sort of Siwoo Kim and Max Homa, who, I mean, they shot lights out. They both shot 7 under in round two. They were great rounds, and it was really good to see Max Homa come back into some form. I've missed seeing Max Homa at the top of the leaderboard. And I think he's good for the game, and certainly his social media profile and what he brings is just a little bit different. It's a little bit left of center.
Yeah.
It's good to see him back into some form, and I hope he comes back and starts, being in the winner's circle again.
No, I agree with that. He's a friend of the show as well. Max Homer's a big fan of the Missing Links Golf Show, which is good. But Siwoo, hole-in-one machine.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, because that was the longest hole, or the longest hole in one on a par three in
major championships,
major championship history.
Yeah, I don't know if it was 100% confirmed, but that's certainly what the belief was during the telecast. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know if there's been a hole in one on a par four. Has there in major championship history? I don't think so. That was just a thought that I just had that popped in my head. But
I think that's the longest hole in one in major championships, because he also has the record for the longest hole in one in the Open Championship, which was about 250 odd yards. Yes. I think this one was 283 or something like that. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and what a reaction to. Loved it. It was awesome.
Yeah, he rubs people, like him and Tom Kim seem to rub people the wrong way a lot of the time. But
what? But why?
I don't know. I like the energy they bring to the game, and yeah, look, it's a little bit different, but again, you've got to bring different characters into the game. And I mean, you look at Bryson DeChambeau, for instance. A lot of he rubbed a lot of people around the wrong way, me included. There was a long time where I didn't particularly like DeChambeau. I certainly think that he's brought his best over the last few years, and I was very hesitant to say it about a year or so ago that I was actually now a fan of Bryson DeChambeau, and I am. I think what he brings to the game is phenomenal, and again, especially his social media stuff. He brings a lot of eyes to the game of golf.
He does.
But yeah, the Kims, Siwoo and Tom, I think they're phenomenal for the game. I think that the competitive edge that they both have, not only in tournament play, but in the President's Cup, they bring huge amount of energy to the game. And I only see that as a good thing.
No, I think that's a good point. Interesting that you say that previously Bryson was rubbing you the wrong way, and you've now changed your tune. Is that indicating that now Bryson's rubbing you the right way, Andy Walker? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, I don't know about that. Let's not go too far.
Wow, but no, it was. You're right though. It was an interesting second round, and I think definitely highlighted by that ace from Siwoo, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah, and again, the other person that I think it's really good to see him back in the mix is Matt Fitzpatrick.
Yes,
he's been a bit absent since his US Open victory, but it's good to see him back in the mix of a major championship as well.
I agree, although I cannot abide the cross-handed chipping.
It's right up there with the broomstick putter.
It's terrible. It's worse than that. Give me a broomstick. In fact, give me a broomstick wedge. I'd prefer to see that than the cross-handed chipping.
That would be an interesting dynamic, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, any club manufacturers out there?
I don't think that's going to take off, just quietly.
I don't even know that it's legal. But anyway, that's okay. All right. Round 3. What do you got?
Round 3. Well, that's obviously where Scheffler made his move, and I think Scheffler went from being sort of lurking to being red hot, unbackable favourite. I mean, that round that he had, 6 under par, 65, it just blew the rest of the field away.
It won the tournament. No question.
Yeah.
Absolutely no question. To be honest, after round 2, I thought Scotty had it in the bag because he was there or thereabouts and you could just see it building. And for what happened on Saturday, the trouble is, I think after the round on Saturday, everybody else in the field also thought the same thing.
Yep. Although maybe Rambo didn't, given what he did in round 4, but I'm not necessarily.
But that's because he doesn't have the mental scars because he's not playing the PGA Tour and he's not seeing Scotty that often.
That's true. Well, interesting because DeChambeau was the same. Because I don't feel. I mean, DeChambeau was still 6 shots behind. He was 5 under after round 3, but I don't think DeChambeau would have gone out in round 4 and gone, oh yeah, I'm playing for second place.
No, but I think everyone else did.
Yeah, maybe.
Particularly with what Scotty did a couple of weeks before, with his 8-shot victory at 32 under. And everyone at that point that's seeing him week in, week out is just going, here we go again. The steamroller continues. But the two guys that don't play with him week in, week out, potentially going, who is this guy? They're not saying that. They're obviously not saying that. But
I find it hard to believe that anyone who knows anything about golf is going, who is this guy about Scotty Scheffler?
We like the big calls on the Missing Links Golf Show. So, but no, it was an incredible round of golf, though. It really was. And he finished birdied 5 of the last 6 holes or something crazy like that.
Yeah. He had a phenomenal finish, and it was that finish across the final stretch that really set him up to have what could have been a dominant display in round 4, but obviously didn't end up being like that. Certainly halfway through, but the other one that I want to make mention of that I thought maybe might give it a little bit of a run was Adam Scott.
100%.
Adam Scott started to show a little bit of form, and again, he was sort of written off a little bit in the lead up to the PGA Championship. There were a couple of I watched a little bit of sort of commentary, certainly from the Australian contingent of the commentary side, and none of them were really saying they just thought that they didn't feel as though Adam Scott would get anywhere near it, and I feel as though he proved them wrong. He was 4 under after round 3, and then obviously in round 4 he started to build a little bit of momentum. Didn't finish that well, but I feel as though Adam Scott found a little bit of form in the PGA Championship.
I totally agree. I mean, he was right in it, through deep into round 4. Played some fantastic
because he got
golf.
it to 6. He got it to 6 under when the leaders were at 9. And that's over a course like Quail Hollow, with how good Adam Scott can play, he was there. He was there or thereabouts, and I felt as though, again, halfway through round 4, he was in the mix.
He was definitely in the mix. Unfortunately, I think on a few occasions, the last couple of holes got him. He didn't finish well across the closing holes, particularly 17, 18, which he's not alone on that one. But I think Scotty's a bit sneaky long as well. Not necessarily known for his distance like someone like Rory or Bryson or anyone like that, but he gets it out there. He does get it out there, absolutely.
They were going through the stats. So I think it was in, and it wasn't the Players Championship this year. I think it was the 2024 Players Championship, where they were going through some of Scotty's distances in comparison to the field. And he is. He's not known for being long, but he's
sneaky.
Certainly right up there.
It's a little bit like Xander. People weren't talking about Xander as being long, but he's pretty long.
Yeah, he is. And I see Xander as, quite a long driver off the tee. I mean, he smokes away. When he gets it going, he absolutely rips it off the tee.
So, and Scotty, look, honestly, you go a long way to come across a nicer bloke in professional golf. I think if he was able to get up for one more major in his career, A, he'd thoroughly deserve it, and B, it would be one of the most popular victories, I think, on the circuit. It's super nice.
You certainly hear a lot of the commentary coming out of the PGA Tour, and I mean, we don't have many contacts in the PGA Tour space, but certainly the commentary you hear coming out of the PGA Tour is how good a guy he is. Lovely to everyone. That he's really personable, got a great personality. And yeah, he would be the last person that you would feel as though is going to do anything to the negative side.
And hasn't missed a major in 20 years.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So yeah, it's look, I feel as though, he's a good role model for the game at the moment. And if you're gonna, I mean, you certainly can't see him doing something like, say, what Tiger did.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
And we don't mean the winning 15 odd majors.
No. We're talking about the 2008 meltdown that he had with family, etc. So you just can't see Scheffler doing something like that. I mean, I think that would be a bigger bombshell than Tiger.
I feel it might. So round 4.
Yeah, look, round 4 was, and I really enjoyed watching round 4. And, we spoke a bit earlier saying that we thought Rambo was going to come through and come over the top of Scheffler. I mean, and again, it's great to see, I think, Rambo back at the top of his game and the, back at the top of the leaderboard in majors. He brings something different to the game. He was a bit of a hothead, or probably still is, but has learnt to manage those emotions a lot better. But I like Rambo. I like what he brings to the game, and it's great to see him back at the top of the leaderboard, contending for majors. Again, as we discussed earlier, he missed 3 or 4 putts on the back nine. I think he 3-putted the par 5 on the back nine from the fringe, where Scotty Scheffler got up and down from almost the same position. And it was those sorts of critical moments that was the difference between Rambo and Scotty Scheffler.
I think you're right. I think there's a couple of points in there. Interesting that you talk about him being a hothead. And he definitely has been. We've seen Rambo have some epic blow-ups on the golf course over the years. But something that stood out for me in this tournament, certainly in round 4, even when it was on the line, he seemed to be in a much better frame of mind. He seemed to be a lot, there was a lot more smiling, which is an unusual thing for Rambo. But he definitely seemed to be a lot happier out on the golf course, even when things weren't necessarily going well. And with the odd bogey, he didn't have those negative reactions. And and I think that's a good thing for him. To me, it didn't mean that he didn't care or he wasn't as emotionally invested, because I did notice, I think it was, it might have been on about the 3rd hole or the 4th hole or something. It was pretty early on when he made a decent putt for a par save and gave it a big fist pump with and you could see that it was meaning a lot to him. So I think the desire absolutely is still there. I think he is really probably frustrated, upset, disappointed with his standing in the game, how his ranking slipped after going to LIV. That these major championships are the only opportunities for the LIV guys to really, kind of demonstrate that they've still got it, which puts a lot of pressure on them in those events. There's no doubt about that. But I think he was really enjoying it. So that was good to see.
Do you feel as though $800 million in his bank account may have contributed to his happiness?
Money can't buy happiness, Andy Walker, but it can buy you a hell of a lot of things that can bring you happiness. And it can also keep your wife very happy, which, as we know, is the secret to a happy life. So I think money,
I certainly know if I had $800 million in my bank account, I could be pretty happy with that.
Yeah. Imagine the high performance center that you'd set up with that. Then you really would be building the house around a new simulator design.
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
So look, I think, he's not in it for the money. That's
no
obvious.
No, and while I joke about that, I think that he has come a long way over the journey of his career, and I applaud him for that. He obviously looks at himself in the mirror and wants to be the best version of himself, and yeah, he did. There were a couple of bad breaks that he got, got a couple of bad bounces, got a couple of very close missed putts, which looked in for all money, but just sort of slid over the edge of the hole. But he didn't react as he has done in previous years. So yeah, I applaud Rambo for doing that. But that sort of brings, we sort of touched on it earlier, brings us to the conversation around how you feel as though live golf and going to live golf and the 54-hole format has contributed or not to their performance in major championships.
Yeah. So I've thought about this, and I was thinking about this when I was watching it. And my answer may surprise you just a touch, Andy Walker.
Okay.
So I don't think the 54-hole format that they play and live makes any difference whatsoever to their ability to compete through 4 rounds. All right. So I'm going to put that out there. Why do I think that? Because they've had an entire lifetime of playing 4-round tournaments, and it's not like they're getting tired on the 4th day, because they're still out there playing a lot of golf and practicing and putting the work in the gym and all of those elements. So I don't think that it's the 4 rounds versus the 3 rounds. However, I do think that there is a format issue with live that has contributed and absolutely contributes to this competing down the stretch part of major tournaments, and that's the shotgun start. Because what happens in live is everyone's playing their holes at the same time.
Yep.
And you might be contesting and finishing out on 14 when someone's coming up 18 for the win. And at no point in a live tournament is there an ability for someone to go out and post a score that you've got to chase down, have the clubhouse lead that's sitting there for a period of time. And you're not all playing the closing holes in the closing stretch with the big crowd in front of the clubhouse on the 18th, because you could be finishing on any hole. And I think it's that format shift that actually makes a bigger difference and puts them in a different frame of mind in major tournament style golf, where everyone tees off 1 and finishes on 18 on the last day. I actually think that has a bigger bearing than the 54 holes versus the 72 holes.
Yep. Yeah, and that's an interesting take on it. I don't think I've heard that take previously. I've listened to a lot of commentary about the Live Tour versus the PGA Tour, and specifically major championships. I do think that the 54-hole format has an impact, and I understand that. Yeah, these live players, they've played a lot of 4-round tournaments in their career. However, for me, it's all about practice and the practice that you do in the lead up to an event. And if you're not playing 72-hole tournament style format and you're coming from a 54-hole shotgun start into a 72-hole traditional championship format, yes, I now that you say it, the shotgun start is a massive contributor, and I agree with that. But I also think the 54-hole format, I think that if you're out of practice with playing 72 holes, that's going to have an impact when you're only playing 54. I just can't see, knowing golf and being around golf
that's probably
for as long as I have.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you take a week off golf or a couple of weeks off golf or longer,
which we do regularly.
Yeah. You become rusty, and you become rusty quite quickly. You look at Xander Schauffele, for instance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Xander was injured at the end of last year and the first part of this year, and he's just out of sorts. He's out of sorts with getting, into the grind in a 72-hole event, because it takes a lot out of you. I believe it does, and certainly championship, major tournament, 72-hole formats, and it takes a little bit to sharpen your game and to get your game to that point where you're ready for a major championship. And I just can't see how a shotgun start 54 holes can get you ready for that format. I mean, the way I look at live golf is similar. And you remember, and there were a few in Australia, sort of late 80s, early 1990s, the skins tournaments that they had, the exhibition games, where they used to play there was a particular jackpot on a particular hole. That's sort of the sort of golf that I see live in. It's more of an exhibition style golf where it's entertainment first, competition second. That's how I see it. And I just can't see how that sort of golf can prepare you for
the majors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot in that. Now that you talk about maybe my take on the 54-hole format, was probably more about the physical side of things, but I think definitely the mental side of things is interesting. And I think that's true, that concentrating that hard and managing yourself around the golf course in 4 rounds of major tournament is mentally exhausting, as much as it is physically tiring. So if you haven't had that practice, and you don't have those reps up, which you won't, potentially that makes an impact. The other parallel that I was drawing, though, when I was looking at this is, strangely enough, is looking at tennis. And in tennis, the pro circuit play 3-set matches in pretty much all the tournaments. I think it is all the tournaments, with the exception of the 4 Grand Slam tournaments where they then go to 5 sets.
Yep.
And that's a very different thing, like winning 2 sets to 1 versus winning 3 sets to 2 or,
But they're all doing that. It's not,
and that's probably the difference. Yeah, it's everyone's in the same boat. So, I don't know. It's interesting. I do think, and I don't want this necessarily to descend into a PGA Tour versus Live or Live versus everyone else discussion, because it's not that. But if you were setting up a rival tour that you wanted, obviously to be, potentially the leading tour in the world, competing against PGA Tour and DP World Tour, like, why make the decision to make it 3 rounds?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't get it. And also from a revenue return on investment perspective, you're then only selling tickets to come and see it for 3 days instead of 4. So you're cutting off revenue. You're only selling,
and that's television viewers as well.
Yeah, telecasting rights for 3 days instead of 4. I don't understand it. I legitimately don't get why they made that decision for any other reason than just the Roman numerals to spell LIV. And that seems to be about the only reason why that decision was made. But anyway, I think Rambo really did compete deep into that final round. And I jotted some notes down whilst watching, and it was, in my view, I've underlined a point saying this was the moment, and it was where on 16, Rambo pulled his tee shot and then almost made the par putt, burn the edge of the hole. Like it almost dropped, burn the edge of the hole. So makes bogey. What happened at the same time is that Scotty on 14, the short par 4, had hit his drive into the greenside bunker. Yeah. And like not a magical bunker shot, not the most difficult bunker shot, but not an easy one at the same time. And gets up and down for birdie, and then so that's the 2-shot swing and gives Scotty a 3-shot lead then. And I think at that point Rambo was pretty much done, and that in my mind is why he went chasing the pin on 17.
On 17.
And found the water, because he got sucked to the left side of the green. So
and that putt at 16, that sort of, one of the putts that I mean, that he had a lot of putts that burned the edges, that he just didn't drop for him. Of course, it was 14 where that short par 4 where again he got a bit of a bad break. He absolutely smoked his tee shot and he hit the side of the green, and rather than kicking left onto the green, it kicked right into the bunker.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
There were just those moments that Scheffler seemed to handle better than what Rambo did.
Well, I think Scotty got a couple of good bounces too. Like you go right back to It was very early. It was on the, what was it? On 2, the second hole. So he's bogeyed one. In fact, 7 out of the 8 leaders bogeyed the first hole, which is just extraordinary. Yeah.
And few nerves, you reckon?
Well, I think so, because like for a lot of them, it was a case of hit the fairway and then miss the green.
Yeah.
And even Scotty, hit the fairway and you think, oh, he's just going to play to the centre of the green, make his 2 putts, walk off with par, and it's job done. But he found the bunker, couldn't get up and down. But then on 2, so 2's the dogleg left par 4. Scotty took a very super aggressive line over the corner, pulled it because he was having a massive case of the lefts throughout the front 9. Everything was getting pulled left. But he went into the trees. He bounced on the cart path, and it actually got him far enough through the tree line where he had shot at the green, and he was then able to hit the green, make the birdie putt. And this is interesting because I didn't hear him complaining about the impact of cart paths in the same way as mud balls at the end of this round.
Funny that.
Yeah. So it like that for me that could have easily been bogey or double if he was stuck deep in the trees and having to come out sideways. But he did get a fortunate bounce, and that gave him the opportunity for a birdie, which I think kind of got things going. But the front 9, Scotty struggled. He did not have his game at all. He was he was pulling everything left, and missing greens, missing fairways. It was not the normal fluid Scotty Scheffler performance that you would expect. And I think as well, it was interesting to watch him kind of face that adversity and having to manage himself around the golf course during that round.
And I think that
he wasn't at his best.
Yeah, and there was a little bit of commentary about that with the guys, the commentators, Paul McGinley and Brandel Chambly at after the last round, and there was a story that they were talking about where Bobby Jones apparently was talking to Jack Nicklaus's father, and Bobby Jones said, "I became a complete golfer when I didn't go running back to my coach with every problem that I had."
Yeah.
So he learned and was able to self-diagnose his own swing issues, which then Jack learned to do, and that helped Jack, self-diagnose when he wasn't necessarily having the best round. And you sort of feel as though Scheffler can do that, and that he's able to struggle, go through the struggle and grind it out, but then sort his swing out to be able to still post a decent round.
Look, more than that, to be honest, and I think this is the story out of the round, and I think for those of us that play golf, at an amateur level, which fair to say is every one of the Pilgrims with the exception of Scotty Fisher, but this is the story for me, is that Scotty was not playing his best. He could very easily have gotten frustrated and started to make some bad decisions, but he didn't do that. He got into the grind. He accepted his game for what it was. He just tried to continue to play it through. He never got visibly upset. He kept a very even keel. And what he also did is he continued to make good decisions. And there's a shot that he played on 18 that I don't think, probably anyone would really be too fussed about or talk about, but he hit his drive deep into the left rough.
Yep.
And at this point, he's got, a 5-shot lead or something.
Yep.
He could very easily be forgiven for just trying to have a lash at the green out of the rough and, ending up making double bogey and winning by 3, because at that point, you're going to win the tournament. But what does he do? He stays disciplined. He chips it out onto the fairway and then plays up to the green. And for mine, he never broke his strategy throughout the day. He never let the frustration with his swing get the better of him. And even into the early parts of the back 9 where his lead that he entered the day with had completely eroded and he was then tied with Rambo, he still never started chasing the game. He actually just stayed in the grind and stayed with his strategy and made good decisions and stayed really even keeled with his emotions. That to me is why he won. And that's
Yeah.
the biggest lesson and the biggest takeout for us out of this tournament.
Yeah, well, I mean that's pretty much exactly what Xander Schauffele did and said last year in the PGA Championship. He played his own game. He stayed in his own lane. They were the words that he used. He stayed in his own lane, and it seems as though Scheffler's got that, down pat, that it's 100%. That's what he does. He knows his game inside out. He knows how to self-diagnose if something just goes a little bit outside of the framework, to bring himself back into his own lane. And yeah, that's a pretty incredible skill to have.
It's a superpower. It's every bit as important as his physical skills.
Yep.
And to be honest, it's what Rory doesn't do.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and even to a larger extent, when after Bryson won the 2020 US Open, Rory started chasing the sort of length that Bryson was achieving. So Rory changed his approach because of what Bryson was doing. Yeah. And again, you come back to Jack, Tiger, and now Scotty Scheffler. Can you ever see them doing that?
No.
Yeah.
No.
So
again,
it's just a different.
Yeah. Rory, if you're listening, stay in your lane.
Exactly. Because, Rory has the game to, as we know, to win multiple majors if he stays in his own lane and plays the Rory McIlroy style of golf.
Yeah, and that's where I think this is a victory. This is a victory for two things: the 65 on Saturday and the mental fortitude on Sunday. Yeah, that's what I think were the defining factors in this tournament for Scotty to get the win. He set it up on Saturday with a magical round, and then he was just so focused and so strong, regardless of what came at him on Sunday, that he got the job done.
Yep. Can I give you a couple of strokes gained stats?
I would be disappointed if you didn't.
So we talked about after the Masters, we went through a couple of the strokes gained stats. Now, in the strokes gained tee to green, so we're talking ball striking.
Yeah.
Who do you think was number one?
Scotty Scheffler.
So Scotty Scheffler plus 3.56 strokes gained on the field, tee to green. Second was Harris English at 2.77.
And he would have gained all of them on Sunday.
Yep. So effectively what you can say is that Scotty Scheffler was 0.8 of a stroke better than the field. So that there is 3.2 strokes over 4 rounds, in ball striking.
Yep.
Because then it bunches. I mean, you've got Harris English at plus 2.77, Marco Penge at plus 2.72, Ryan Gerard at plus 2.72, Keegan Bradley at 2.57. So they're fairly bunched after Scotty Scheffler or Harris English. But there's Scotty Scheffler and a massive gap in ball striking down to number 2 being Harris English. So I find that to be really interesting. But if you break down the stats on a off the tee and an approach play, Scotty Scheffler he's 6th in strokes gained off the tee.
Yep.
He is about 8th or 9th in strokes gained approach. And he is about the same, about 7th or 8th in strokes gained around the green. So, but you put it all together, and strokes gained tee to green is his number one. So because he's at in the top 10 in each of those stats, when you put it together as a whole, he becomes number one, and number one by a fairly long way. I find it really intriguing that strokes gained putting, I'm going down the list. He's probably about number 25. I haven't counted it, but he's about number 25 in strokes gained putting. Now, he's still positive. He's 0.66 positive strokes gained against the field for the week, but it wasn't his strength. He's well down the list.
Yeah.
Sam Burns actually was number one in strokes gained putting at plus 1.79.
Yeah, and I think we've covered this on a number of occasions of how it's important, but it's not, and it might be the differentiator between the top couple when their ball striking is on song, but ball striking is going to win these tournaments, particularly at a place like Quail Hollow. If you're not really moving it around the golf course, it doesn't matter how well you putt, you'll be putting for bogey.
Yeah, and I agree with that 100%. I think ball striking is the framework that sets up the round. It's the baseline. It's what you should structure your game around. And as we've talked about quite a bit on the show in previous episodes, it's when you have your good weeks putting, and that's when you actually win the tournament. But your ball striking puts you in the frame week to week, month to month, year to year, and that's where Scotty, I feel, as though blows away the field most of the time.
No, absolutely. One other little observation that I want to share about things that kind of caught my eye during the tournament is Ryder Cup captains.
Yep.
Captain America, Keegan Bradley, finishes in a tie for 8th.
Yep.
Which is a great effort, and he is pushing a very, very strong claim to be a playing captain. In this Ryder Cup. The other one, Luke Donald, he was right up there with the leaders on round one.
Yeah, absolutely.
He still finished, I think, in about a tie for 60th or something like that, but faded away a little bit as the rounds progressed. But he had a fantastic tournament, really up until the last day. I think he was 5 or 6 over on the last round. But both of them.
I don't think he's pushing for the European team though.
No, but I tell you what, you could do worse.
Yeah. 100%.
And I would like to see a tiebreak rule in the Ryder Cup that if
where the captains go out.
Yes.
Not a bad idea.
That would be gold.
You may come up against a little bit of resistance if you get one of the senior members of the. I know that Jack was captain there a couple of years in a row, and Gary Player's been captain of the President's Cup, and
obviously it changes your strategy on who you select as your captain at that point, doesn't it? But
absolutely.
I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree. So a couple of comments I think about individual players to finish on. We've covered Jordan Spieth, who I thought was a little bit disappointing and missed the cut. But again, sort of course didn't suit him. Xander, again, just not at his best. I feel as though he just needs a little bit more time to
watch out for Xander next year. I think Xander in 2026.
I think Xander will be good. Adam Scott, I'm hopeful that Adam Scott may sort of come back and contend again. I thought he was sort of 2025 hasn't been his best year, and I sort of felt as though he was sort of riding off into the sunset. But this has given me a little bit of hope that his game's still there, and he might. I'd love to see him win the Open Championship. That's the one thing that the one tournament that I would really like to see him win. I mean, he had it in the bag there. What was it? 2012, I think it was.
Yeah,
when he had it in the bag
got
and
over the top.
Yeah, and bogeyed the last 4 holes. So I'd love to see Adam Scott win the Open, and gives me a little bit of hope that he can do that. Jason Day. J Day had a bit of a disappointing tournament. Missed the cut.
Yeah, he did. He did. It was not great. He's been playing well quite a lot of other tournaments this year, so it's just a bad week for J Day.
Yeah, I would have, of course, J-Day's quite long, so I would have thought that he would have had a better round or a better
Yeah,
tournament at Quail
but
Hollow. I sort of feel as
he
though
was
that,
almost a withdrawal.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. So he was lucky to even front up for the tournament at all.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
I didn't realise that.
Yep. So I think there was other stuff going on.
Injury or
look,
illness?
I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but I know sort of a week out it looked like he wasn't going to play. It might have been illness.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So, in fact, I think it might have been a recurrence of the vertigo issue.
Yeah,
that he had
right.
going
Okay.
on. So I don't think J-Day was at his best for the tournament at all.
It's disappointing because I just feel as though his body's just letting him down a bit. He's got immense talent and can play, but yeah, his body just seems to be saying no, not letting him potentially reach the lofty heights that he's previously reached.
Yeah, correct. Correct.
Minwoo Lee, again, bit disappointing. With his length, I thought that he was, and certainly in recent times, I felt as though he was building his game to be able to contend, and Quail Hollow, I would have thought would have suited his length, but again, miscut at +4.
Yeah, wasn't his best.
So yeah, I sort of feel as though the Australian contingent, there were some mixed results with the Aussies.
Yeah, there were. One player that we haven't talked about at all, which I think is a little bit disrespectful because he came second, is JT Poston.
Okay.
And I think it speaks volumes because he just flew under the radar.
Yeah, he did.
Kind of didn't really do much and just kind of coasted his way into second place for the tournament as, Scotty kind of distanced himself from the field and everybody else fell away. JT just sort of hung around there on the last day and managed to sneak through. So
I'm just looking through the results. I think he actually came a tie for fifth. He was five under. It says here that he finished, unless the stats that I'm reading are completely wrong.
You're right.
Scotty Scheffler.
You're right. Harris English sneaked up there. Yeah, JT was in second, deep into the last round, and then faded away. A little bit, dropped a shot. Really, was probably the main thing.
I think he bogeyed the last.
Yeah, that's right. He was in second up until that point, and I stopped taking notes at that point when he was in second.
Imagine that. Imagine you sort of can go, okay, 17, I'm done.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
That's the tournament.
Davis Riley was another interesting one though, because he finished right up there as well. He was in tie for second.
He tied for second. Yeah,
and
he's got a fair bit of talent.
So he dunked a pitch on the fifth, I think it was. Just chipped it straight in the hole on the fly, which was an awesome shot. But then I think it was on the seventh hole, par 5 7th hole, he made an 8. And if it wasn't for that, if he pars that, he's right in it.
He's right up there. Yeah,
in it
for sure. Yeah.
So there were a few, but like they just kind of never really contended. But look, for mine, as I said before, the story of the tournament is, obviously Scotty 65 on Saturday, but most importantly, and the biggest lesson I think that we can all learn out of it is managing your emotions. Don't chase the game. Play the shot that's in front of you. Make good decisions. And just, you're dealing with imperfect information. So Scotty never time travelled in that front nine when things weren't going his way. He wasn't adding up the score of what it looked like being at the end and panicking. He just stayed in every shot and that got the job done. And I think, if nothing else, that's the lesson that we take out of it. Yeah,
I agree with that. I think that's what we talk about regularly on the show. I mean, Scotty just displayed that, absolutely to a T. He was the epitome of what you need to do when you're playing golf, and certainly big time pressure golf, whether that be final round of the major championship or, the final round of your club championship. I certainly think that we can take every golfer can take an enormous amount out of that.
For sure. Well, there you go, Andy Walker. That's the PGA Championship.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, and I love watching best players in the world sort of go around in the major champs. So another one and done. Looking forward to the US Open next month, which will be interesting. It'll certainly. I'm keen to see how Bryson does in the US Open. I feel as though the US Open is that's the one that he wants to win the most. Regardless of how many times he wins the US Open, I feel as though Bryson wants the US Open more than anything else, and he could win it 10 times and it still wouldn't be enough for him.
I think if you slipped him a green jacket, he probably wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. However, I just feel as though the US Open is like, again, it's you talk about the Scotty Scheffler being the epitome of that mental game. I sort of feel as though the US Open it's the epitome of Bryson. Like that's him through and through. So I'm a very keen observer to see how Bryson goes in the US Open and what he does.
Is that your call? Is that an early tip?
Title defense? No, I'm going to reserve my my prediction until
get off the fence, Andy Walker. Get off the fence. Anyway, yes. We shall see. It'll be good fun. So there you go, Pilgrims. That's the wrap up of the PGA. Hopefully, there's a bit in there for you to think about. Interested in your views? Please get in touch on any of the social media channels and tell us where you agree or disagree with that analysis. We'd love to hear all about it. And in the interim, Andy Walker, is there anything else that we need to do?
Rock out, Pilgrims.
Thanks for listening to us today. We love hearing from our Pilgrims, so please reach out to us through any of the links in the show notes. We know golf is hard, so we hope we can help you shoot better scores and inspire you to keep trying. Rock on, Pilgrims.